we go home into our homes. We don't sit on our front porches anymore. You don't say hi to your neighbors. I grew up literally, I think I was the tail end generation.
We do.
You would drive down the road and you would wave to the people you were passing. I mean, again, I grew up in a small town, but you knew them. You actually knew, oh, hey, there comes Johnny from down the road, you know, hey, how you doing? And you're waving at each other as you're passing each other by. And there was such a sense of beauty and connection in that, even though you didn't know where each other was going and you might not be in your everyday life, but there was connection. And that connection is possible, even in this day and age of internet and screens. We just have to make choices to step out and risk. You have to risk.
I won't lose hope in the night when the fire's glowing dim. I'll just let go and I'll try. Help me walk this road and find my way back home. Find my way back home. Find my way home.
Welcome back to the Famous Stone Podcast. Today we are starting season 4. Which is called The People Who Shape Us, and we have some incredible interviews coming up in this season. Today, Christy and I are introducing the episode. Before we get started, I just want to make a quick reminder that Tender and Fierce Field Experience registration is open. We would love to have you. Spaces are limited. It is filling up, and so make sure it's in the show notes. Check it out if you're interested. Please sign up, register, or send us an email. Let us know if you have any questions. We would love to journey with you.
If you'd like to come in person to the Tender and Fierce retreat this summer, June 20 to 22nd, you also should sign up. Because only those that have been through can go. So
same for the Field Experience retreat.
Yeah, if you want to do the summer one, just sign up for this one.
Check it out.
If you have been those alumni, anyone who has been through Tender and Fierce is invited, welcome, and to come
and bring a friend too. And join. See if you have a friend, because that's what this season's all about. You know, the people who shape us. And that's a
good point.
At some level, okay. So this episode or this season, we have interviews lined up with people who have shaped us. That may or may not include our own parents. And so even today, I'm wearing if you're watching this on YouTube, I've got my Philadelphia Eagles sweatshirt on because my dad has shaped me dramatically throughout my life. He is now in heaven. He is with Jesus. But football, Phillies, Eagles was a big deal for us growing up, Penn State football. And, of course, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. So I've got my Eagles sweatshirt on today in honor of my dad, because he so significantly shaped me in so many ways. So wearing that today.
I have my Go Bird sweatshirt.
You have your Go Bird sweatshirt. I mean, you came.
I know.
You came around full circle.
I was like, you're going to love me even more.
I know.
Now that I have this sweatshirt.
And I don't know that I could have even loved you anymore.
But then you saw me in the sweatshirt and you were like, yeah.
There was more room, apparently.
That did it.
There was some room.
That did it. It's not like I really care about the NFL, but I did not care about the Eagles, and now I care.
Now you care. And they won.
I mean, it wasn't even just that they won. I care. I care because you care.
And, we talk about this in Famous Home Book, but it's like, it's so often that, and I think, I don't know, we haven't interviewed them yet. They are scheduled to be interviewed, our parents. But, it's not like, we grew up in homes that were just absolutely all, sunshine and roses.
Did anyone grow up in that?
And that's the thing, is it's like, the point of that is, let's take, and I talk about this in the Famous Home Book, is taking what our parents gave us and honoring that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times in this world that we live in, Ecclesiastes says that with much knowledge is sorrow, right? And I think we're experiencing that in the mental health of our day. It's like this next generation can throw around psychological language and mental health language. They can talk about attachment theory the way that I do as a PhD level, studying it and doing a doctoral dissertation in it. But yet it's not like they have a sense of attachment or connection or experiencing the healthy mental health. It's like we have the vernacular, but it's like we still long for the experience. And it's like
So good.
that life of how do we move from our heads and head knowledge to heart experience, heart knowledge is the journey of with God, but it's also, I think, the journey in relationship with everybody. And that's the key in this whole series is how do we honor the people who have gone before us? How do we honor the people who have shaped us? Particularly in this sense, our parents. Look at the good, honor to level that up. And you look at what they didn't give or where the generational sin might be or the generational curse. And obviously, this isn't just like some voodoo type of thing. This is like, what if a spirit of lust or a spirit of divorce or a spirit of, alcoholism, whatever it might be, was passed from generation to generation. It's like, no, we're going to cut that off in this generation. I'm going to take the joy, the spirit of joy or the spirit of kindness that was given to me. I'm going to level that up for my kids, and I'm going to stop this. Man, that's a life well lived. If you can level up and honor your family for the next generation, I think a lot of the things that we chase are futile, and these are the things that really make a massive difference.
You just realize like how much those that have poured into you have changed who you are, like epigenetically. Like this is actually, and I think that's what's interesting is like you're saying this is becoming like common conversation in our generation, where it's like we're actually seeing how science is proving these things to be true, like these biblical kingdom truths to be true, but to actually talk about them in a way that affects us like on a deep level. Like I think we're all desiring connection. We're all desiring this deeper level of connection to God, to ourselves, and to other people. And so we really wanted to be able to highlight that and actually talk about I think there's a lot of people that have gotten really disillusioned and bitter and even despairing that there's like not great people out there. That
I agree wholeheartedly.
That there's like that the world sucks and
but when you are in your matrix, we'll go back to last season just for a second. When you're in your matrix of algorithms and you look at the world and you look at where the world seems to be heading, we have all this information that we've never had before, and we go home into our homes. We don't sit on our front porches anymore. You don't say hi to your neighbors. I grew up literally, I think I was the tail end generation.
We do.
You would drive down the road and you would wave to the people you were passing. I mean, I grew up in a small town, but you knew them. You actually knew, oh, hey, there comes Johnny from down the road, hey, how you doing? And you're waving at each other as you're passing each other by. And there was such a sense of beauty and connection in that, even though you didn't know where each other was going and you might not be in your everyday life, but there was connection. And that connection is possible, even in this day and age of internet and screens. We just have to make choices to step out and risk. You have to risk. Friendship is risky. We're going to talk about that this season. Like, friendship is risky because you have to fight and you have to war for loving each other, and you have to war for you have to
like being vulnerable, like to actually expose parts of you, and there's a risk that that's not returned, or that it's turned, or that it's rejected,
and
or
it's easier than to isolate, especially in this culture. It's easier to isolate, and
so much easier.
So we got parents, we got friends, and we've got mentors that are coming on as well. In fact, John Eldridge will be here. You guys have heard us talk a lot about John Eldridge. He has, especially from the standpoint of coming out of counseling, similar to us background, but also how that counseling journey has led into a place of spiritual direction and growth. He has a brand new book out that we're going to talk to him about. But even more than the book, and the book is about experiencing Jesus. And I think that as we rebranded Famous at Home, about finding your way back home to the Father, there's nothing more important than our relationship with God as it relates to how we show up in the world around us. And he's going to talk to us about that, because a lot of the prayers that we pray, a lot of the ways that we pursue God, I think he, in many ways, gave us permission. And I think for me, in my field, Larry Crabb was probably the one who went before him. And then it's kind of like, and John probably wouldn't see himself in that same vein, but I just feel like Larry Crabb was one of those guys that came out of that Christian counseling world and said, hey, what does it look like to pursue God differently and the soul, the care of the soul? So Dallas Willard, Larry Crabb, and now John Eldredge, I feel like is kind of carrying that torch in some respect. And so I just appreciate him, and we're going to interview him because he's shaped us in many, many ways.
Yeah. I just think that we can't discount how, like, you can look back at previous versions of yourself. We talked about this exercise the other day. Like, if you were to write a letter to yourself 10 years ago and tell her or tell him what life is like now, like what you are like now, not just the changes, like, you're going to have 2 more children, you're going to move how many times, but like how different we are on the inside, like how our character has been shaped, how our view of life, of God, of ourselves has changed. We realize you have been shaped by people. And I know that the Lord assigns people for seasons, like on purpose, sometimes for lifetimes, sometimes they're shorter seasons than we would like. Sometimes it's like a blip, it's a conversation, it's a podcast, it's a book, and it changes you. And we also, like, as we honor these people and talk to them and glean from them, we also, I hope, all leave realizing we are those people as well in other people's lives. So we get to then go do this for other people. You're doing it right now for other people. And you may not do a podcast on the other side to actually talk about it, but you might. and it doesn't matter. I mean, it's all being recorded in the scrolls of heaven.
Yeah, it's good.
And this is eternal work you're doing in the life, like in the 4 walls of your home, outside the 4 walls of your home, perhaps like out on the interwebs, and you have no idea the impact that you're having. You have no idea. And I just want to like fan that flame where it's like, go, like, because I know it can feel like, what's the point? And am I even having an impact? And I mean, it makes me think of, what's that movie? Christmas movie.
What's a Wonderful Life?
It's a Wonderful Life.
I was trying to figure out where you were going. I was like, Butterfly Effect? And you're like, no, it's a Christmas movie. I'm like, no, okay.
Wonderful. It's a Wonderful Life. Where you like just the impact one person has. And we don't have any platform. You don't need any.
Well, and I think too, and this goes to the people who shape us. First of all, I want you to today in this episode, I think if there's any action step, think about the people who have shaped you over the last couple of years or maybe this last year. Send them a text message today and just thank them.
Good.
Just thank them for how they've shaped you. Doesn't even need to be a phone. I mean, you could pick up the phone, you could call them, but just, I actually called someone this week and said, hey, I just want you to know how much I've appreciated you and your friendship and just how much you've poured into me. We have to make those phone calls from time to time and send a text this week. Just celebrate them, text them, just tell them you're thinking of them, praying for them. And I think that's a beautiful thing to do. The other thing that's important is to look back on your life and realize, how have certain friends shaped you? How have certain friendships, how have certain family? Jesus said, I think family's important here, but also too, the disciples said, hey, your mother and brothers are over here. And he's like, no, these are my mother and brothers and sisters, right? It's like the family of God is now our family. And who are those people in your life? Your church family, your small group, your community, the people that you do life with. Who are those people, and how have those people shaped who you become? You hear this often saying that, we are who we become, or you are who you spend time with. You are the average of your top 5 friends, the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think many of those things are true. There's no question. I have looked back on my life and I see that, and I realize that there were certain friend groups or, your certain circles where you're like, oh man, now, it's like the Lord needed me to be in that circle for that season, but then it was like, oh, he moved me to a different circle, and then he moves me to a different circle, and each circle has been beneficial to me in some way, and to honor each of the circles that he brings us into for the seasons of our lives that we navigate it. And so I even think of, so often what happens, and you know this, it's like we're getting ready to officiate a wedding, and it's like this is the first wedding we've been to in a long time, but there was a season where we were in weddings all the time. We were at weddings all the time because that was the season of life. Those were the friends we were with. And then all of a sudden you get married and you have children, and all of a sudden it's a different set of friends, especially if you're not living in the same area. If you are living in the same area and you have those same sets of friends, that's a beautiful thing, and be grateful for that. But pay attention to how these people are shaping you, how they're, impacting your life. And I would also venture to say this too. It is very important that we are, and you've heard me say this before if you've listened for a while, that you're looking at the people in your neighborhood and you're saying, you see how they've raised their kids. They've gone before you. And you say, I don't know what it is that you've done, but whatever it is, you've done it really, really well. Can we have you over for dinner? Can we take you out to lunch? And you sit under their tutelage. You ask them questions. You put yourself in their lives. One of the things you don't want to do is go, hey, will you mentor me? That's just like a big, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Like, don't do that. Just invite them over for dinner. And allow relationships to organically happen in your life. Be hospitable. Open your doors to allow people to speak into your life so that those circles can organically take shape in your life. And you're not just hanging out with people. We're not just hanging out as Timothy and Timothy, but now all of a sudden you have a Paul in your life. But you also have a Timothy. You also have people that you're mentoring or that you're that are coming alongside you and you're years ahead of, where there's this multi-generational flow of relationships that are shaping who you are, but also that are allowing you to shape those around you. Because when Jesus says to love your neighbor as yourself, your neighbor is those that are nearest to you. And so how do we love those people that are nearest to us, starting with my wife and my kids, and then obviously my neighbors and those around us? These are the people that are shaping us, but they're also the people that we get to shape. And so even praying into how do I shape those people? Because I think as families, as we build for the kingdom of God, we came out of season 3. If you didn't get to listen to season 3, I'd invite you to do that, because it's really about coming out of the matrix. The last episode, episode 7, was finding your uniqueness as a family. And part of finding your uniqueness and having purpose and vision for building for the kingdom of God is a direct reflection of who you're surrounding yourself with and who you're spending time with.
I'm just thinking as you're talking about neighbors, and I'm like, I realized our neighbors are all coming over for dinner tonight.
All of our neighbors are coming over for dinner tonight. Isn't that awesome?
That actually makes me, it's really cool. We did plan it. We did plan it.
we planned it.
We didn't plan to talk about that
we didn't plan to talk about it. Yeah, no, you're right. It's happening tonight. Yeah.
Just a random Tuesday night.
Yep.
And there's a cake. There's
going to be a lot of laughter, celebration.
Going to be a lot of laughter.
There'll probably be some tears too.
Oh gosh, there's always tears. I'm there. There's always tears. There's banners. There's cards.
Didn't know there was banners.
There's banners. The kids made banners. But I think it's like learning. I really believe, I don't know, this is kind of a random fact, but the Catholic Church has declared that in Rome this year, this is the year of Jubilee. And there is something about that has become so significant to me. I don't think, we've talked about this how many times, we don't celebrate really well. I don't think as a culture. And I am determined to celebrate. And like tonight we're celebrating.
Go back to season 3, listen to those episodes.
Yeah.
It's what families want. We long for celebration. We long
do.
For joy. Go listen to those episodes if you haven't listened to them already.
It's a random Tuesday night, and we're celebrating with cakes and banners, and half of us are fasting sugar, so we can't have the cake. But the kids can, and they'll be thrilled. And
kids will love it.
We'll make coffee and eat apples and pretend like it's the same. But listen, it's just like I'm so excited. Everyone who's coming is so excited. Like it's all getting us through a random Tuesday. We're so excited to come together tonight. And I think these are the things that we have I don't know if we've forgotten or if we've just, again, there's been a level of despair, I think, that like relationships can't be like that. I'm not going to find people like that for me. And that is just the lie. I think that is, relationships are hard fought for. And yes, they can wound us deeply. And yet they matter so
much.
They are so worth fighting for. Like, you've been hurt. I've been hurt. He's been hurt. We've all been hurt in relationships. And I firmly believe it's those of us that are willing to still stay true and faithful and loving and forgive quickly and actually get to the heart of a relationship, to talk about the things that are really true, like not false, just brush it under the rug or gossip or, we're actually just willing to talk about those things. And this is where this emotional maturity concept comes in real handy, because you realize you need that. Like, it's a necessary component of healthy, strong, joyful relationships. And you will find the people that match the level of your emotional maturity. And the higher you go, I think you start to realize it's almost like leaders, where they start to feel like, is there anyone else here? Is there anyone else wanting to live this way? Is there anyone else willing to do this work? And that was another thing on, with the tender and fierce women we were talking about the other day, where they're like, I'm noticing as I'm growing that my friendships are having to change, because I don't relate with them on the same level.
That happens. And I think that's important.
And there are necessary endings, but I also, like, the despair is like, there's no one here. There's no one else at this new level that I'm at this new level of understanding of myself, of God, of relationships. And that's not true. But that, I know what that feels like. It's just new. It's like there's the people you haven't met yet, but they're coming. And so I just want to infuse like so much hope, I think, even just in this season. And also just, just before it even happens, like just counteract jealousy or envy, and literally just cut off that spirit from even speaking to you, because I also know what that feels like when you really want something that you don't have and you hear it in other people. And to be totally honest, that was actually a concern of even sharing the people in our personal, like our real people in our lives. It's like the last thing you want to do is like put these relationships on a pedestal as if they're the model or something that you're
right.
It's these are our people, and we just want to be able to share that so that
and I will say too, our people are people that have organically just they have been warred for, they've been prayed for, and they've organically taken shape.
Yeah.
And so even my relationship with John Eldridge is years ago. I mean, he and I met back in probably 2006. I bet we've known each other 20 years. And now, do we know each other deeply and intimately, and do we do life together? No, but we've connected, through the years back and forth. We run into each other at conferences or see each other at funerals, or, I mean, literally. So because we have similar circles of friends, but yet he's influenced us through his writings, through his books, through his prayers, through the way that he, even his emails, all of the things that he does. He's a sojourner. He's a sojourner seeking Jesus. And even those relationships, they might not be relationships that you have deep personal connection to, but they are relationships that matter because they have shaped you. Yeah. And I think we want to honor those and allow these relationships to organically happen. I mean, I've had people pour into my life from afar, from a distance, all different kinds throughout the years. Yeah. There's a few that have stuck, truly stuck. And I think the same thing happens with friendships is you'll ebb and flow in and out of friendships, and you'll get ones that those are your people. And so we're just, yeah.
And I also want to like pray that over you, that like the Lord actually brings your people. Mm-hmm. That's what I've been praying for the ladies in Tender and Fierce, because I hear the heart cry. It's like what they experienced within it felt so safe and sacred and true, and it's real and it's great. Like, it's so good and rich. And they're like, I want this in it's great because we can connect even from across countries and, but I would love to find this in my local area. So I'm like, okay, then this is the prayer. This is how we all stand in the gap for one another, because he is no respecter of persons. So he doesn't do it for one person and not for another. That's not how it works. It is, we have prayed for years for relationships we have now. And that's not a pat on our back. That's he heard the cry of our heart.
We were warring for it. And I think that's the key, is we have to war for it.
Yeah.
The last thing I would say is when we war for is what we war for in our families. Mm-hmm. So in other words, What is it that I'm warring for traditions as a father? What is it that I'm warring for in relation to how I am pursuing the heart of my children? What am I warring for as it relates to how I pursue Christy's heart and how my children see that, so that the family lineage is shaped and changed, and who I am as a father and how I have permission to be that father and that husband is a reflection of who I'm surrounding myself with. And so we have to come to a place where if you're hanging out with mediocrity, you'll live in mediocrity. If you're hanging out with people who are a notch above you and you're like, man, I want that, but you're afraid of it or you don't know how to get it, man, that's what I'm saying. Invite those people over, because I would be intimidated by those people in the past. And I all of a sudden got to a place where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to surround myself. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to risk and I'm going to invite myself into their world. And I would just do that over and over and over again with various people. Not that I was annoying to the same people, but it's like, hey, can I grab coffee? We want to get to know you, da 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 da. And you just let those relationships take shape. But we have to, as Christy said, we have to war for it. We have to pray for it. And you have to, I remember when we first moved here to Tennessee, Christy is in her introverted, in all of her introverted ways, found a group of moms, a hodgepodge group of moms, because she would go to the park with the kids and she'd see one mom at the park, she'd get her name and number, and then she'd go to another park and get another woman's name and number, and then she'd go to the swimming pool and get another name and number. And next thing you know, she's got like these 8 different women from all various parks and walks of life in our home, inviting them over for dinner, and none of them really knew each other, but she's just saying, you know what, I just want to find friends. I want to find people. And it was a very brave thing that Christy did. I remember when we first moved to Tennessee.
And it was so deep, and it was so, I was so scared to do it, like terrified.
It was amazing.
But it was so deep, and it was so rich, and you don't have to know one another. You don't even have to have similar interests. You become real. That's it.
And that's what people long for. That's what we're saying. When we open up our homes and we invite that in, the people who want that and desire that will stick in your life.
But you have to be willing to go first.
That's right.
You have to be. And that's the terrifying thing. And I get it. Like, that is the absolute, because we've all been hurt before. We know what this can feel like, and it could suck. And yet the willingness to go first.
So our prayer and our hope for you in this season is, first of all, what I want you to do right now is text a friend, text a parent, text a family member who has shaped you. Thank them today. Number 2, our prayer and hope is that these conversations in this season will enlighten you into relationships that you have with your own parents, relationships that you have with your friends, relationships you have with mentors, and that it will give you insight and new ways to shape the community and the relationships that you have around you. That is our prayer in our heart. So until next week, we pray that your heart's awakened and that you find your way home.
All the fear